Hello artists! Today we're going to make a printing plate which will end up becoming a city. We're doing part of the city on here and then it's going to get covered in ink, and we will take what we drew here and repeat it to make your city bigger. You will all have a piece of foam. We want to be careful with the foam so you don't bend it or make it crack. It should be going up and down. You will all have one parallelogram. We're going to set the parallelogram down and take a pencil that is not super sharp or a pen that has a metal tip. You can also use a mechanical pencil if the lead is not out. It needs to be in, so you're just tracing with the plastic tip. I'm going to take this little parallelogram, hold it down, and trace it. When you're tracing, the idea is to leave dents in the foam. So if I take this away, you can see the dent in the foam. We're going to repeat tracing this parallelogram. It is not allowed to touch other parallelograms. It is not allowed to hang off the edge of the page. So on mine, I had room for 4. How many you have depends on how big your parallelogram is. Some kids might have room for 6 shapes. And yes, you can turn them like this. There is a building in Chicago that has that shape. For our next step, you need a ruler, and you need to remember what direction vertical is. Vertical goes straight up and down. Vertical goes the same direction as the sides of your foam. We're going to start with the very bottom parallelogram. That's important, so the overlapping will look correct. And I'm going to find the corner, the vertices, and it's got how many vertices? 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to find the bottom vertices, make sure my ruler is vertical, and trace. Then scooch over to the next one down here, and the last one. I am not going to put a line here. You do not want it to go through your parallelogram because this is your roof for your building. For the next one, we find the next highest parallelogram. Start at the vertices. We draw down until it either hits a building or until it hits the bottom of your foam, whichever comes first. So now I have 4 buildings, and you want to double check before you move on. We do not want a big space that runs from the top all the way down to the bottom, because then your project will end up in 2 pieces. So if you have a space like that, we may have to add 1 more roof for good measure. Now your buildings need windows. We're going to start with the easiest kind and then work our way up to harder things. So I'm going to take this bottom building. You just pick a building, doesn't matter which one. When you're making windows on 3D buildings, you're following a basic rule. The windows are parallel to whatever side of the building they are on. So if I have a window over here, the lines are going to be parallel to the bottom of the roof, parallel to the sides, and then they will change when they change sides. So I'm going to take my ruler, line it up with the bottom of the rooftop, scooch it down, make a line, see if I have my room. I do. Make a line. Notice my lines stop when they hit this corner. They don't continue. Other side, line it up with the roof. It's going the same angle. It's parallel. Scooch it down. This time we have to find where we left off and draw a line. Repeat. And look if see if you can fit one more. I can. There we go. So 1 building, done. It's got windows. Another building. We're going to take this technique, make it a little bit harder. So we're going to line up with the roof again, make those parallel lines, and we don't want to accidentally draw them through onto the building next door. We cannot erase when we are working on foam. Now we're going to make it a little more complicated. See these lines? They're vertical. Make your ruler be vertical and stop when you hit the next building or the bottom of your foam. When you do this kind, you always want to do the lines here first and your verticals last. Otherwise, you get confused and you'll lose where your corner is because you have too many vertical lines. Another type of window we can do. We can make it so it looks like there's a giant screen on the side of the building. Line up your ruler with the bottom of the roof. I'm going to make a line, but it doesn't start at the edge. It's going to be kind of in the middle. Then I want lines that come down that are vertical. And back to parallel with the roof. And I'll fill in any gaps. So this could become some kind of a giant screen. Another type of window we can do. Makes it look like an apartment building. So parallel with the roof. I've got 3 lines. Or you could have 2. Now I'm going to make vertical lines that come down. And back to parallel with the roof. So now I have apartment windows. If you're going to make a second row, they kind of need to line up with the first row. Same thing over here. They need to be in line with each other. Remember, there's overlapping going on, so you will not see all of each window. I do want to see you using your ruler for all of these lines. Once you have windows or giant signs on all of your buildings, it's time for the last phase before we start making messes. You're going to carefully cut away. We want your buildings to remain hooked together. We're just cutting the sky. Cutting the sky off. Since you cannot bend your foam, you may need to approach it from several directions. If you have any areas that are really hard to get into with scissors, please see me and I will cut them out with my handy dandy X-Acto knife.